DJ Drip.
All right, things you need to trim a rack of ribs. We're going to trim these up St. Louis style. For starters, you're going to need a dish towel. So why I need a dish towel? Because you're going to need a cutting board, and the dish towel keeps your cutting board from sliding around. Just place the cutting board on top of your dish towel. That way, as you're working the meat, working with whatever you're cutting, whether you're cutting vegetables, whatever, the cutting board won't slide around on you. You're going to need a sharp knife. When I'm trimming ribs, I use a medium-sized chef knife. That's sharp. I use a steel to get the blade straightened, or I'll run it through the sharpener to give me a good sharp edge, so that way I'm not fighting with the meat. And this thing does great. You're not cutting through any bone. All you're going to do is cut through gristle at the most. Next, you're going to need some ribs. We'll trim these babies up St. Louis style. Now let's talk about a little housekeeping. You can see I got my countertop covered with some foil. That does a couple things. One, it keeps the chemicals I use to disinfect my countertop from getting into my meat, and vice versa. It keeps me from depositing any kind of bacteria onto my countertop. I look at it as a poor man's stainless steel countertop that I could throw away, even though it's not stainless steel, it's aluminum. All right, housekeeping. Make sure you have a clean apron. Make sure you wash your hands. And then when handling meat, you always want to use some type of gloves. These are the kind I use. These are food handlers gloves. They're very inexpensive. You can use the latex gloves that look like doctor's gloves. Only thing with those, if you need to get your hands at them quickly, it's hard to get out them quickly. So you either dedicate to the cause, or you're going to be throwing away a lot of them. These you slide off real easy and get back to work. Look, I leave the food handling area with the gloves on, they go in the trash and get a new set. All right. Now let's trim these babies up. We're going to trim these up St. Louis style. After we've liberated our ribs from the blister pack, I'll just take a paper towel and blot off any excess liquid. Both sides. Just the kind of stuff you don't want on your countertop. That's why I line my countertop with foil. All right, this portion of the rib, I'm gonna get rid of that. All right, I don't throw this away. I cook it, it's good snacking meat while I'm smoking ribs. Now, you say save it, what are you gonna do with it? Well, it's meat. This will make great sausage meat. After you save up enough, you can grind it into your own, make your own brats with it, or then some type of sausage, breakfast sausage. Now, on this side, you can see this where it's fat. There's usually a hunk of meat right there. We want to liberate that, but once you do that, it's pretty thin on this end. So what I do, let's count off 1 or 2 ribs. I'm just going to trim that off right there. Again, I'm not throwing this away. I'm going to cook it and keep it. It's just going to cook a lot faster than these thicker boys right here in the middle. All right, so we're going to keep that. I always also have a pan that I can put the meat in as I trim it. Okay, now we're going to trim this part off. This is what's referred to as the rib tip. And you can see this line here. You can pretty much follow that, but I don't. I look pretty much, I want to even up the rack and get the bones appearance-wise the same length. So with that, you know, I already have an idea what I'm going to cut. Like I said, nice sharp knife. I'm going to cut right through there. Then you might encounter some gristle. Like I said, knife cut right through it real easy. Alright, we're going to save that because we're going to cook that now. I get down here and you can count out. Usually it's about 8 or 9 good bones. Then you trim off. We're going to trim off this thin end because this will cook faster than this, and then you don't want pork jerky and then raw ribs here because you're trying to keep everything even in color while you're cooking. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we got 8. That's all gristle right there. So we're just gonna, again, we're not gonna throw that away. I'm gonna cook it. There we go. St. Louis style rib right there. Ready to go. It's that simple. All right, let's do it again. Take my paper towel, blot off any excess liquid. Especially underneath that flap of meat there. Alright, you can see where when they trimmed off the bottom of the ribs, it got some, it's not. I'm going to clean that up right there. This kind of stuff, I'm going to save it. Remember we was talking about the making sausage? That's a lot of fat, and we need fat for our sausage. So right here, got a good fat right there. Gonna hang on to that and put it with that scrap meat that we're gonna grind in the sausage. We're gonna hang on to all that. Nothing wasted. I'm gonna use all this. Turn that off. Alright, once again, where I was talking about where there's a flap of meat right there, this fat, we're going to liberate that fat. Put it back over. Remember, I said I cut off a couple bones. We're going to liberate those. Alright. Got ahead of myself. Alright. Okay. And all this stuff right here, pretty much you can make a line with your finger, whatever. I've been doing this long enough, I can just pretty much eyeball it. There's that gristle I was talking about. Knife goes right through. There's that. Then, now, one looks little, that's just the way the rack yielded the meat. Nothing we can do about it. Sometimes you'll get a nice, beautiful rack. Sometimes you get a little small guy. But pretty much, we got two beautiful St. Louis style rack of ribs. Next step, we're gonna get them seasoned up. I always start with some all-purpose rub here. Next, I'm gonna hit it with a little seasoned salt, not a lot. And we're gonna hit it with some garlic. Like I said, this is adult education. Choose what you want to use. All right. Next comes my binder. Now I personally use mustard, but you can use anything wet to make your rub stick. All right. Get that rub in there. See, this gives us opportunity to work in all those herbs and spices that we just applied to the meat. And your binding agent acts as glue for your rub. Alright, get that all worked in there, nice and neat there. Now we're ready to apply our rub. Yep. I got my rub in a different type of shaker, so I don't go too heavy on the back of the ribs because there's not much meat there, so no need to go overboard. All right, going to flip them over, and we're going to repeat that process. recipe. You guys can make up your own all-purpose rub. A little seasoned salt, not a lot. No garlic powder. I love garlic. Alright, now our binder. All we need is just enough to make the rub stick. We're working stuff around the edges. The reason why I push the ribs together like that way I don't have waste in between the ribs, you know, seasoning that's falling down and it's not going on anything. So that's just me. Then nice even coat of the rub. Don't want to go too heavy. Well, you do what you feel you must do. I personally don't. So I really want the meat to be flavorful at the same time. I don't want to go overkill with the rub. Now these babies are ready for the smoker. All right, these are those pieces that we trimmed off the rib. This is the rib tip meat that we trimmed off, and this is the end of the rack that we trimmed off, and this is the other end of the rack. Those two ribs that we trimmed off the end to even up the rack. And look at this. It's about the size of a rack of ribs. And once this stuff cooks, you'll see the bones start poking through. You can trim those up, and you pretty much, if you will, have a third rack of ribs. It's pretty cool. That's why I don't waste anything. And this, I'm gonna be honest with you, when it comes to eating ribs, this is my favorite part right here, the rib tip meat. And we're gonna get this meat seasoned up and get these items into the smoker. And once they're done, and I'll show you how we slice these babies up.